Yins guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh and I'm joined as always by my brother Jake. What's up, Jake?
What's going on, man?
Uncle Jake, as they're affectionately calling you.
It's hot down here, man. It's hot.
It's pretty hot here today too. Dynamite drop in, Monty.
No, I thought I was going to sneeze, so I muted my mic, and then I ended up not sneezing.
That broadcast school is really paying off.
It was 98. Feels like 109 down here today.
Yeah, it's not that hot here. Not that hot here.
It was a rough one today. I had to load a U-Haul, so I was in the back of the U-Haul for a lot of it.
Okay.
It's rough.
All right, so we've got a good bit to talk about today, right? The trade deadline is come and gone. We have had all the things that we've had to say before the deadline, kind of. I mean, was there any moves before we talked on Sunday? Like, did the Priester move already happen? That was kind of the first one. There's the sneeze. All right, we're getting the sneeze. This is a very quiet beginning to the show here as Jake is trying to get this sneeze out. Anyway,
I don't think so. I think
everything was after.
Yeah.
Okay. Or at least, right before.
For us.
I had it pulled up. For us, right. I had it pulled up with the dates and everything. So I am
Priester went on the 29th. So the day before.
So we did know about that one. No, the 29th. No. We did it. We were here on Sunday, the 28th.
Yeah.
All right. When you said the day before, you threw me off. I thought you meant the day before the last show.
The day before the deadline.
All right. So
because the deadline was 7:30 at 6 p.m. We got it figured out.
Yeah.
Now that it's come and gone.
When you said 7:30 at 6 p.m., that was really confusing already. I was like, what was it, 7:30 or was it 6 p.m.? Which one was it? Anyway, so we're going to talk about the trade deadline, kind of our takes on them, maybe initial thought, maybe as we've had a couple days now to kind of process it now. But then also, some conversation around Oneil Cruz and his series and how that went. I know that's kind of a hot topic right now. And we're also just going to look into August and where this team, it's 2 months, Jake. It's 2 months left. The deals are done. The teams are set. And we're going to take a look at what do we expect here?
Sort of. There's still ways to pull off trades, right?
Not anymore. The waiver deadlines are gone now.
Okay.
So not anymore.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too, because I think it should be a little bit more of a lengthy sample with that new team. I said this on Sunday. I kind of wouldn't mind if the deadline was earlier. If it was the All-Star game or something like that. If you had to make a decision earlier so that the bulk of your season can be with those guys. Like, imagine if we would have gotten help earlier and been even better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think of that too. But anyway, lots to get into. Let's start with Oneil Cruz. Well, let's start with a couple things here just to see if there's anything here. Joshua Palacios on the 10-day injured list. Carmen Mlodzinski, 15. Dalton Jeffries went from the 15 to the 60. And Jake Woodford came up and made a pretty good start in the kind of limbo that we were in with Martin Perez and Priester and everybody kind of being dealt. So anything there? I mean, obviously, to me, Mlodzinski is the one that really stands out. Joshua Palacios has been a spark. That's something that, you didn't want to see either, but he can still kind of be a spark there.
Sure.
If he's still with the team. And they're coming back home, so I assume he will be.
Yeah. It was the same game, wasn't it? Where Ji-hwan Bae, I thought that was worse than it was, and he ended up playing the next day.
I talked about him. I thought his ACL was done.
Yeah.
I was convinced he was done.
Yeah, me too. Didn't look good. That's the way he landed. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, Majinski, I mean, it answers some questions maybe as to why he had a couple, little rough ones there. But he'd been looking really good, right?
I don't know. You mean Bay?
No.
Oh.
No, Bay has been looking awful.
Yeah. It's
not even a competitive at bat.
I was like, what are you talking about? No.
That's hard to watch.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I mean, Majinski, on the other hand, has been earning his way right up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And obviously with Holderman's struggles, like that's a big loss.
Yeah.
Holderman's just not, I mean, you're going to go through this. You're going to go through, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, right? You're going to go through these times where you're, maybe not as effective. And we talked before, the pitch that he threw for the 2-run homer to give up the lead, all in all, like not a bad spot. It's a,
right.
It's a fastball 97 with a little bit of movement in towards the hands. It's on the black. Like it wasn't out over the middle. It's just it's the pitch selection. You had a pinch hitter who's looking dead red fastball. You got the Crawford boxes out there. What are you doing? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And when it rains, it pours.
Mm-hmm.
And Holderman's not been effective. So it seemingly poured on him in that moment. So yeah, I think that's a big piece of it. All right, so let's talk about Oneil Cruz, and I'm going to go ahead and just piggyback on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be great all the time. Straight up, right? It's not going to happen. I don't care who you are. You're going to go through, like you're going to have a bad series.
Yeah.
Oneil Cruz had a bad series. He had an error in every game.
Least.
I'll say 2 errors, right? We all know it's 3 errors in the final game, in the loss. I'll say 2 just for the sake of the argument, because we're only going to talk about 2 of them. 2 plays. We're only going to talk about 2 plays.
Yeah.
Okay. The first error in the second inning is kind of a classic Oneil Cruz, fields the ball, upper body gets out in front of his lower body kind of thing, just absolutely yanks it. We know that when he misses his throws, he just holds on to the ball too long. So it's either going to go off to his glove side or it's going to go straight down in the ground instead of to his target. And that's when he misses. He's done more of the straight down into the ground, which is fine. I mean, you've got a major league first baseman over there who should be able to pick it. And so as long as you're missing low, first basemen aren't going to be upset with you. You start missing wide or start missing high, and then they're in risk of being injured. And you know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole thing. If you're going to miss low. And he's been doing that for the most part. And he's got 2 first basemen right now that can handle that low throw. Yeah. And it's been working out for him. Go ahead.
He's in that state right now where he's getting better. He's not a good fielder. I think everybody knows that. But he's been getting better, and this one just got to him. The game sped up. It's just like Shelton said, and then he reiterated when they were talking to him. They asked, "Did the game speed up?" Sure did.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
I think on the second one though, the first one to me was just it's a physical error.
Mm-hmm.
Physical errors are going to happen, and they're going to happen a lot more when you're 6'7".
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not making a pass for him. Like, we know this is who he is. He's going to make those types of errors. And so if we just stay on the first error for a minute, like it's 3 errors in the series, right? He had one in each game at the point of the second inning when he made that first error. So he looks at, this is the 3rd straight game with an error. And he had a pretty good, what was his line? You still have that page up. How many games, like he had made one, The series before that, I guess he made a couple on the 21st against Philly. Okay. He'd made a couple errors in that game. And then he went 4 games, had an error, 1 game, and then had this series. Prior to that, he hadn't made an error in almost a full month. It was June 25th was his last error. And he had a couple. He had one and then one the day before. They were both against Cincinnati in Cincinnati. Before that, he hadn't made an error since May 22nd. So you're talking about a guy who he goes like almost a full month. Well, it actually was a full month between May and June without making an error. And he has 2 games in Cincinnati where he has an error in back-to-back games. And then he goes another almost full month without making an error. Now, granted, like, you know what I mean? Like, we all can get it. We're talking about July. There's a all-star break in there. I understand, but calendar month, right? Almost a full calendar month since his last error. And he's had a pretty rough go of it with the 2 on the 21st. And then he goes to like this bunches of errors from July 27th and then 29th, 30th, and 3 on the 31st. They've piled up on him recently, and they piled up on him early on in the season as well. Not even really. I'm looking in they're kind of, they're just sprinkled in there, and they're often, right? And so the things that we look at are, we know that this is what Oneil Cruz is going to do. And you kind of understand that. This guy never had a proper rookie season for these kind of things to kind of work themselves out. But I think the biggest of them all, let's go into the 3rd inning, Jake. Because now all of a sudden you're at 16 errors, you're at 17 errors now, right? On the season. It's kind of like, okay, but recently it's been a problem. He had a nice, good long streak there for a while where he was playing good. And then now all of a sudden, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then this fly ball gets hit to Brian Reynolds. He was playing by second base on this play. First off, no business. No business being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But he tries to do too much in this play. He goes clear out into left field saying, I have to make up for that. That cost us a run. Okay? I have to make up for that. And he goes out and he does something stupid. That's a mental error. Yeah. I can handle physical errors. Brush it off, move on. The mental error is where he went wrong. And then on top of that, goes and gets the ball, and then again, everything's speeding up, and he's saying, crap, I messed up again. I got to throw this guy out. You didn't have a shot to throw this guy out.
Right. Yeah.
And so then he throws it into the backstop. And all of a sudden, he's sitting there looking around like, what have I done? Not to mention, he's not going to get a hit off of Framber if he keeps throwing that curveball. He had no shot at the plate, even if he was having a great series.
Yeah.
Framber was dealing, and I was glad that we got the 4 runs off of him because he pitched way better than that.
Yeah.
Joey Bart ambushed a fastball over the middle to hit the 2-run homer, and that was kind of the story of that, is he missed his spot on that home run. The Kutch RBI hit, that was a great pitch. Maybe a little up, right? I mean, it was out. It was on the black, maybe a little off, and Kutch just did a good job of getting the hit. But
so real quick, I'm just going to, I wasn't looking at the screen a whole lot during that. I was doing a little bit of math.
Yeah.
He's at a 939 right now, fielding percentage. Going into the series, or omit this past series, 5 errors and all those chances, he's at a 952. You go back to before that Philly game, so take out his past 10 games, 971 fielding percentage. It's pretty good for a 6'7" guy.
Well, and here's the thing though. Like, I don't want to make excuses in that way, right? I don't want to say like,
it's not
oh,
really
well,
an excuse.
Well, but either way, if you look back, I mean, like he hasn't had a full season yet, so it's really hard. Like, he's played more games this year than he ever has in the major leagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to know, like, he's now, Baseball Reference actually has him at a 939 fielding percentage. Okay. last year, I mean, he only played 9 games, so he made an error. but in 22, 79 games, he had 17 errors. The chances were 363. So more chances in 22, less errors. And so, 328 chances this year. So, I mean, understanding too that the innings are 768 in 22 and 808. So like he had more chances in 22 with less innings and less games than he's had so far this year. And he had less errors. And he was still at a 953. He's not a great fielder.
Right.
He's done a good job, I feel like, at not committing like the ridiculous error. I no longer watch the game, and when a routine ground ball is hit to him, I don't think he's going to throw it away. And that's how I felt in 22.
Oh, yeah.
How many of those in 22 do we know? I mean, I can find out, right? I'd like to know how many of those are throwing errors versus fielding errors in 22, because he actually has more fielding errors this season. I think that Fangraphs does post that. Bear with me here for a second as I look it up. We've got a couple things in the chat, Jake. Why don't you check those out?
Yeah. This is a good one. Why do we expect our players to be perfect all the time? Because they're paid.
No,
I'm kidding. Obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're right on it. Like we can't. I mean, yes, they're paid professionals, but that doesn't mean they're not human. Let's go. Give them a break.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. I am pulling it up here, and they do have it. Baseball Reference has it. In 22, he made 7 fielding errors and 10 throwing errors. So far this season, 11 fielding errors, 9 throwing errors. So the throwing has definitely gotten better. Defensive metrics are not perfect either. The play that Oneil Cruz made to get Altuve out in that game, we don't have another shortstop who gets him out at first. I know everybody wants to say, well, Balika is really good. He doesn't make that play. The arm is not strong enough. Altuve beats it out.
Mm-hmm.
Oneil Cruz is the only guy on our team who gets him out at first on that play. And we can just agree to disagree on that if you think that that's crazy. Because I don't think so. Like the arm and the throw that he made across the infield, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I once again, like I want to reiterate that I'm not making an excuse and saying he's fine. I think he's fine, but not in the way where I think he's a good shortstop. Let me tell you this, Jake. I mean, do you want Trey Turner playing shortstop for you?
Yeah.
He's a worse shortstop than Oneil Cruz is. By the metrics, all the things, he's a worse shortstop. I think by a list of errors, he's a worse shortstop. I'm going into fielding here. I just want to look at the list here of errors. Let's sort by errors, please. Oneil Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz both have 20 errors. Gunnar Henderson, another stud shortstop in this league, 18 errors. And then it goes down. Jeremy Pena only has 11. And he made the same dumb error, not dumb error. He made the same fielding error where he just threw it away and Reynolds was safe at first. Like it's the same thing that Cruz did. The thing is don't let that bother you and don't try to overdo it. But when you get all the way down, I'm looking for Trey Turner. CJ Abrams has 10, but there's some other things too. When you look
Turner
at
has 12.
Turner has 12. So I'm trying to think of where we were at, what I was looking at. Bear with me. So this is according to outs above average. Okay. Oneil Cruz sits at -2 outs above average. And I think a 2.7, I think that's defensive WAR or maybe something else. Either way, Trey Turner's at a -6. CJ Abrams at a -12. They're not making as many errors, but they're also like not getting to as many balls. So like when you start looking at the stuff like this, so that's outs above average. If I go back to this, I think I have to go to a different list. I think I have to go to advanced. That's what I was missing. Here it is, outs above average. So yeah, I mean, he's sitting at -2 now. So like Jeremy Pena, that was just on the opposite side, 0. Corey Seager, 0. Gunnar Henderson, 1. Paul DeYoung, -1. CJ Abrams, I said -12. You got to go to page 2 to get to some of these guys. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr., Anthony Volpe, like those are the guys, right?
Right.
This is qualified, so it's actually stopping me there. But I mean, he's okay. He's not great. He's kind of sitting in there. Errors are going to be one thing. IKF hasn't played much short, but if I take the qualified down to maybe like 20 innings. Sorry, responding to Ghost Guy here. He asked about IKF. Let me see if I can find him on this list. Here he is. So he's at a 0. And that's that's for shortstop. Okay, so I mean he hasn't played a ton of shortstop this year, but he's at a 0. But I mean, you're talking about IKF who won a Gold Glove at third base. Like this is one of those things that I want to keep like harping on is we're talking about Oneil Cruz. I had a guy tell me today that he was talking about the play and how he went out and made that mistake, and it was something about demanding excellence and how that's just not going to cut it. And he was using his example. He was using Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and the way that they demanded excellence in them and those around them. And I said, you're comparing Oneil Cruz to two guys who are considered to be possibly the greatest basketball player ever. Like Oneil Cruz is not in that conversation. This is a guy who's just an okay shortstop. We can't compare him to guys that are possibly the greatest ever. You know what I mean? Like that's an unfair comparison. This guy's not that. Oneil Cruz will be your shortstop. Specifically this year, you're not going to do a position change in the middle of the year. You're talking about a bat that the Pirates desperately need in the lineup. Yeah. The last thing you want to do is Henry Davis this guy and have him not doing anything at the plate because you're trying to teach him a new position. Also, I don't really know what position you're going to teach him.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to put him at third. You know what I mean? You've got the best defender in baseball there.
You just kind of put on like the two corners are taken now with Reynolds and De La Cruz. If you move him to the outfield,
and you're not going to move him to the outfield. His arm's great. It's not an outfield arm. He's a sidearm slinger. He's not. That's just not going to be good for an outfielder. Right. I mean, he is good enough to be a major league shortstop. It will get better than what it is right now. And if you know that. Actually, here, Ghost Guy said, would you substitute IKF for shortstop in late games as a defensive substitute? This is a fair point. I wouldn't do that with IKF. My assumption is, and we're going to get into trade deadlines later, my assumption is IKF's going to be playing second base already.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is if Oneil Cruz makes if he's one of the last 3 hitters to hit in the 8th inning, 100%, I have absolutely no problem putting in Alika Williams, a shortstop, to play the last inning. I have no problem with that. But if Oneil Cruz has a chance to hit in the 9th and we need him to, heck no. Because that guy's been clutch. He's been doing things late in games. I mean, even in the first game of this series, the double he hit put us, tied the game. You know what I'm saying? Like he was very, very big in that game. So to answer your question, it's yes, but it might not be IKF, right? It might be Alika Williams.
Right.
But late games for defense, yeah, I think that's actually something that they'll consider doing, but not if he still has the opportunity to impact the game with his bat. He's too big of an impact offensively. Led the team in RBIs in July. He's second on the team behind Reynolds in most things. Rowdy a couple things. They all three had 5 home runs in July. Like, this guy is one of our best offensive weapons. And you can say, but the strikeouts, and that's fine. The game has strikeouts right now. You can still be an effective player with a 30% K rate. You just can. Yep. It wouldn't be ideal to have your whole lineup that way, for sure. I surely wouldn't want that, right? I like guys to put the ball in play, at least with 2 strikes, shorten up and put the ball in play. But there are a few guys in the lineup that I'm okay with it. If you're going to hit me home runs, and that's, you have to sell out for that, I'm okay with it a little bit.
Is it going for you?
Michael from 412 Double Play says, what's more likely by season's end? Cruz is a net positive defender, or Mike? And we're very close, by the way. Update on that. We are very close to Michael. Mike Taylor, a net positive bat. I think what's more likely is that Taylor's a net positive bat. He's hit 300 in the last 2 weeks or a little bit more than that. He's just, he's kind of coming into a groove here. And if he can continue to do that for a little while, if he does it for the rest of the season, me and Jake might even be pronouncing the A at some point, but that's unlikely. But yeah, he certainly has an opportunity, and he'll probably get the playing time to continue that.
Yeah.
Because at this point, when your offense gets better, you can absorb a defensive center fielder in that way. The play he made the other night when he jumped up and robbed a double from what's his name. That was a great play all the way around. So, yeah. We've seen Sawinski crash into the wall trying to make plays like that 3 times this year. You know what I mean? So very good. We don't do jerseys. Also, we don't do that. So please don't do that. Actually, I'm begging you not to. I don't get jerseys. When I get jerseys, people get hurt. So please do not do that. And Ghost Guy, he says, we'll agree to disagree on Cruz. That's fine. If you're not seeing it, that's fine. We're able to disagree and still, and still move on with it. I believe that he is too much for this offense to do anything else. Yeah. And I really think, after seeing him for the time that we've seen him, Jake, I really think that there's nowhere else to put him. He's probably going to be his best at shortstop. I used to be on the outfield thing hard, but I don't know that I am anymore. And if it was outfield now, seeing the speed, it'd be center for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We heard all the reports as he was coming up through the minors. Keep him engaged. I don't know if that's a thing or not. The thing is he wants to play short and he wants to continue to work hard at it. The video went around a little bit about him taking ground balls before the game. Before the game on Wednesday, he took extra ground balls in the warning track down the foul line because he was so bothered by the errors the 2 nights before, and then he makes another error. So you already know it was bugging him.
Right.
That's what can't happen. You can't let it bug you here when you have back-to-back games with an error. Yeah, you have to figure out how to move on because we need you at the plate. Which brings me to, are we done with that? Are we done with Cruz? Are we okay? We understand. We cannot compare him to Bobby Witt Jr. He's just not that kind of defender. You can compare him to Ellie. You can compare him to Gunnar Henderson. Do that kind of a thing. I just think that you're not going to compare him to the defensive greats. He's not winning a Gold Glove. He's never going to win a Gold Glove.
No.
He's just not that kind of guy. He might win a Silver Slugger or 5,
Or 5.
But, I mean, just casting my net, you know what I mean?
Right.
But he's not going to win a Gold Glove. And I think that in today's game, this is going to be maybe the hot take part of this, okay? In today's game, with all of the fly ball, 3 true outcome, all these things that happen, you can get by with a shortstop like this. You can get by. It's not ideal, but to have his bat in the lineup instead of Alika's, heck yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And knowing that like a team like Philadelphia has Trey Turner, who's even worse, which is surprising because nobody would say that about Trey Turner. Oh, but he only has 10 errors. Well, but he doesn't get to the balls that other people get to. Right? I mean, that's when you talk about errors, a lot of times that's all you're looking at is, but isn't, it's not getting to the same things. It's not creating the same plays. Maybe his pitchers strike out more guys. I don't know. It seems unlikely with some of our rotation, but yeah, I mean, I just, I think that it's too dynamic. And I think when he watches strike 3 down the middle, I do not believe so. And we agree now, that was my point. He isn't winning anyone over with his fielding. So maybe not winning anybody over, but he has actually made some impactful plays on defense as well. His numbers with 20 errors could be a lot worse than they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to always bring it up, but you could say the same about Ellie De La Cruz in Cincinnati. Like their profiles are so similar. They make errors, but they also make spectacular plays. How many, like there's been at least, and this is a very quick and dirty, but there's been at least 3 relays, 2 of them down the right field line, that Oneil Cruz has been clear over there to get a relay and threw out a guy at home. That's saving a run. Just put a 1 in defensive run saved. They don't, but they should, because he saved a run on that play, right? Because defensive run saved isn't perfect. But that's all, right?
Yeah.
Okay. With that said, go back to the mental aspect of it. Rowdy Tellez, in the post game, I posted the tweet on it. If you haven't seen it, go out on Twitter. I posted the video on Twitter. It's kind of blowing up right now. Of Rowdy on the bench after the game, talking to Oneil Cruz. It's hard to explain. You got to see the video if you haven't already. Go look out there for it. But it's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that the first error is a physical error, and you're okay with those. Those are going to happen, especially from a guy who you know is going to make them. But even with Oneil Cruz, even with a guy who you're saying, he's going to make errors and you're going to have to deal with them. He's going to make some extra plays. He's going to miss some routine ones. Even then, the second error can't happen. The mental errors, regardless of whether you're 6'7" or 5'7" or whatever. 5'7" would be fun. At shortstop. Anyway, those kind of things are the things that we need to stop. And you could see Rowdy saying, you let the physical errors get the best of you. And there's some narrative, that's in the video from Rob King, who's doing the post game, and you don't know exactly what he said. I don't know if the post game interviews, I'm sure that they don't say exactly what was said there, but
right.
But the idea is that like he caused the second and third error of the game with his head. And that's the part where I say that's what can't happen.
Right.
Brian Reynolds makes that catch, the inning's over. We're done.
And we're still up, 4-1?
We're still up 4-1. And you could go through the time and say, well, he cost us all 3 runs. Kind of. He made the error that put the guy on base. He gets the second, right? There's a ground out. Mm-hmm. He gets the third. And then he's at third with 2 outs. And the next guy strikes out. That run didn't have to score, but the pitcher threw a wild pitch. So I'm kind of like, wild pitch is the same thing that Oneil Cruz threw to first. So he's about 50% for that one. Now, sure, if he gets the out, then the inning would have ended on the previous batter. So it you know what I mean? It still counts. But there was a little bit like he was helped out by a wild pitch. And then later on, and I know you're the pitcher, so you're going to say, no, but there's some there. And then, Jordan hits the fly ball. With 2 outs, that ball gets caught. The inning's over. Nobody scores. Chas McCormick is running all the way around. If you catch the ball, he's out. Let's say there was only 1 out, and Reynolds caught the ball. McCormick's at first. Woodford then gives up a laser 106-mile-an-hour double in the gap that Chas McCormick is scoring on anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the next out. So, like, yes, all 3 are on him, but, like, he had some help. He had some help on it. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not 2 outs and 3 runs scored just on that play. Right. He had some help. And I know, like I said, feel free to bail out the pitcher if you want. You're allowed.
Hey, I mean, as a pitcher, you got to get over that too. And it's easy to let it manifest in your own head too. Like, come on, dude, let's just make a play and get out of here. Now I got to throw more pitches. 106. Shoot. Now then you let it. It's another mental mistake.
Right.
In my opinion, I'm not going to bail him out. I'm going to tell him, dude, you need to get over that and get the next guy out. You need to bail out your fielder too.
If that's the case, right?
Right.
Because it's also a pitcher can miss a spot, not because he's bothered, but just because he missed a spot.
Because, yeah.
So anyway, it's a sequence of events. This is what baseball is. This is what happens in baseball.
Yeah.
You still get the series. Everything's still good. I think we get some good feels and a good representation of what Rowdy Tellez can do for Oneil Cruz. Matter of fact, just to go back, Sherrod put something in here right here. Tellez has really helped Cruz to limit errors this year compared to 22 when you held your breath every time he cocked and loaded that arm. This is big. I think that's maybe what's causing less throwing errors. Rowdy Tellez has been good for him. Not because he's a great first baseman, but if you remember back when he caught that one and he just jumped up and threw an absolute bullet back to Oneil Cruz, is like kind of like he was mad. He was like, you don't have to throw every ball 92. Like, you just don't have to do it. My hand hurts. You can make a play without doing that. And it is like when you're throwing every ball across the infield, Oneil would field it, he'd pat his glove a couple times, and then he'd throw an absolute missile to first because he had it and because he was thinking too much. And I think Rowdy has actually helped him with that early on. Before Rowdy was even good at the plate, he was helping that. And that was kind of a story that they talked about. So I'm glad you brought that up, Sherrod. That's a good point. I'm just trying to look in here through some of these ones that we missed before we move on, because we're about to talk about the trade deadline, which obviously is hot. So and this is true. I agree with you, Ghost Guy. If it wasn't for those errors, you feel pretty good about finishing the sweep. They're going to happen. I hate saying it. Like, you're right. It did cost you. But I had somebody else tell me, if we miss the playoffs by 1 game, this season was ruined by Oneil Cruz. And I just want to look at them and say, hey, dude, we got swept by the A's. Okay. There's 162 of these. You're going to lose some.
Yeah.
We got swept by the A's. You want to know why we missed the playoffs? Go back to that one.
Right.
We got swept by the stinking A's. Okay. I'm just glad we swept the White Sox. Like, could you imagine? The White Sox just lost 15 in a row, and that broke the record for their biggest or their longest losing streak that they set earlier this season. How do you... I don't know where they're at right now. If anybody has an update on whether they lost 16 in a row. Matter of fact, I have the standings page up here. 17 now. They're at 17 in a row at this point. They do not play today. So 17 in a row for the White Sox, Jake. They are 27-84.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking at it the other day at the Shuckers game. It's because we were talking about how bad of a season they're having. It's just it's bad.
10 wins on the road so far.
Jeez.
It's unreal.
They're on pace to lose like 118 or something like that.
243 winning percentage. That's 39 wins. That's a 39 and 123.
Jeez.
Now, I don't think they'll keep that pace up. I think they'll miss out on 100. Well, maybe not. Maybe they lose 120.
They just sold everybody.
Maybe no, they didn't. They sold some weird ones, but they still got Crochet and they still got Robert.
Yeah, but they don't have anybody else.
Those guys will win you a couple extras. Yeah. I don't know. So this is a big one, man. Shockingly, they couldn't trade Robert, and Crochet screwed himself demanding that extension before he would play postseason baseball. Oh, I didn't actually hear that. Did you hear that?
Oh yeah, that was big.
I didn't hear that part.
I'm surprised of all people, I'm surprised you didn't hear that one.
Yeah, I totally missed that. I knew Robert.
Luckily, nobody from down here listens to this podcast because I'd get in trouble for talking bad on Crochet.
Oh, because he's from that area, isn't he?
Yeah, he graduated from Ocean Springs High School, which is where I work. So
he's about to talk bad about Crochet.
I'm just saying, you just shot yourself in the foot, dude. Like, why would you ever say that? Like, if somebody's going to let you pitch and you're going to pitch in October, you're going to say no?
Why would you just not want to get out of Chicago in the first place?
Right. And then possibly pitch in the postseason, and you're going to be like, nah, I'm good. Nobody would ever say that. Well, I say that, but somebody did.
And the White Sox are probably like, seriously, bro? Now we'll never get you traded.
Yeah.
Maybe that was his point. Maybe he was like, you treat me like crap. I'm going to make sure you don't get a great big return for me. Anyway, I knew Robert was never getting traded because the asking price was too high for a guy who's always injured.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, when he broke into the league, the next so many years, was hands down the best baseball player in the league. And probably like we all talked about, like, he might be the best that we've seen. And now that contract stinks because he's out for the rest of the season again.
Yeah.
And you're saying, what am I getting out of this? The guy's hurt all the time. I'm not paying for that.
It's hard, man. And there's things you just can't predict.
No, but you know what? I will say this though. You can predict this a little bit. I think you could have predicted Mike Trout and injury problems because the guy is built like a running back. Baseball is not meant for big, strong, like muscular guys. It's not meant. Look at what's his face, whose dad's a bodybuilder. He was in St. Louis for a long time.
Gabe Kapler?
No, he was in St. Louis for a long time. He's one of those outfielders.
Oh, Tyler O'Neill.
Tyler O'Neill. He can't stay healthy. Get out of the gym. We've got a guy like that. We've heard the reports of Key Brian Hayes is the first guy in the weight room and the last guy to leave. Can you just not do that? Like, you can go work out, but like, you got back problems. The last place I want you is in a weight room doing way too much.
Yeah.
Every year we go into spring training, not anymore, but we were going into spring training like, oh man, Key Brian's getting bigger, man. He's going to hit some home runs. And then it's like, well, I'm not surprised that your back hurts. Get out of the weight room. Baseball's not for those kind of guys. And I'm going to get hit for this one. I know this is a little bit of a hot take too, but I'm just not into it, man. You can't be a bodybuilder and play this game. You've got to have endurance. You've got to have flexibility. Not even flexibility, but you can't do it. You can't go out there all big.
Flexibility's big.
Yeah, but it's just not. It's not meant for that. I mean, maybe if you're like a first baseman, but like outfielders can't do that. They just can't. and it's shown over and over and over and over and over again. And maybe Luis Roberts there too. Hey, Ghost Guy says he's filling up our comments. That's okay, man. That's okay. I might not get them all. But I don't know how I missed the Garrett Crochet piece. I just really don't know. I think I was just like, when I saw his name, I just brushed by it. But and I will say this too. There was a lot. When did he say that? Did he say that when I was in Disneyland? Because I was unplugged.
Oh, maybe.
Did he say that during our vacation? Because I wasn't on anything.
I bet it was, yeah.
I bet that's when that came out. Because it wasn't on the deadline, like it was days before.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to chalk it up to that. I was intentionally spending time with my family and staying off of Twitter and stuff like that. So, I tried to follow up on some things, but it would be easy for me to miss non-Pirates stuff during that time. So give me a pass, Ghost Guy. He says, I thought maybe, he's saying I should, he's shocked maybe about that, or maybe about the fact that I didn't know that. But anyway. All right. So let's get into more of the deadline stuff here. Because the Pirates obviously made some moves, and we've been wasting our time talking about the stinking White Sox.
Listen, rabbit trails, man. That happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's still baseball.
All
right, I'm going to run through them real quick, all right? And then you're going to pick which one you want to talk about. And guys, give me your takes in the chat, too, those of you who are in there. Pirates traded Quinn Priester to the Red Sox for minor league second baseman Nick York. The Rockies traded left-handed pitcher Jalen Beeks to the Pirates for AA left-handed pitcher Luis Peralta. Miami Marlins, we got Brian De La Cruz, right fielder, for Jun Suk Shim and Garrett Forster. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Martin Perez traded to the Padres for Ronaldus Jimenez, 18-year-old left-hander. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa comes from the Toronto Blue Jays, along with cash for this season. For Charles McAdoo, prospect, who was moving up. And the Orioles, Billy Cook, minor league, infielder, outfielder, first, second, left, center field, right field, center field.
Yeah.
Some third base.
Infield, outfield.
Plays a lot. For right-handed pitcher Patrick Riley. All right. Where do you want to start?
I mean, you start with the biggest one, right?
Oh, this is going to be interesting. So this is going to be interesting. Which one's the biggest one? Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah, I really think so. I think that you could. Go ahead.
De La Cruz is the biggest one.
Okay, De La Cruz is the biggest one.
There's really no question.
There is.
It doesn't make sense how it's not.
Tell me about De La Cruz. Let's talk De La Cruz, and then we'll go on from there.
It just fills that gap that we needed an outfield bat.
Yeah,
and we got it, and we didn't have to give up really much of anything.
Oh, certainly for value. I mean, you're getting De La Cruz now. He goes into arbitration next year. You still get him for 3 more years.
Yeah.
And you've given up Jun Suk Shim, who by all accounts, everybody says that they really like him, but he's been injured like all the time. And and he's 20 years old, still could be a great pitcher. That's fine. And you have to give up good players to get good players. That's fine. But
right.
It's kind of like the Marlins destroyed everyone. The return that they got for help me with his name.
Chisholm?
No. Well, Chisholm, but we all knew that they were demanding that from Chisholm. I've heard a couple guys say that the player that the Marlins got for Chisholm, there's one of the players, is the best prospect that was traded on the trade deadline. So just to point that out. They're saying that was the biggest prospect that got moved, and it was for Jazz Chisholm. But the pitcher the left-handed pitcher, and I'm trying to think of what team he went to, and the return that they got for him. Help me out in the chat. Taylor, it's not Taylor. Who's the Twins?
Oh, Rogers.
Is it Taylor? Yeah. Tyler?
I think it's Tyler.
And it confused me because when I first saw it, I assumed it was it's not Tyler. Tyler Rogers is the super good lefty. Did you hear that thunder through my mic? Whew, that was a big one. Okay, so not Taylor Rogers. Oh, you know what? Google said, I think you mean It's not Tyler either. Who the heck is the Rogers? Trevor. See why I got confused? I thought, wow, okay. That was like a big deal trade, man. Trevor Rogers goes to the Orioles for Stowers and Norby. Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers. And I thought, really? Like those are some pretty, like those are guys that are like really close. Like they're going straight to the major leagues.
Norby's played for the Orioles this year.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Stowers, but
well, let me tell you that Trevor Rogers has a 4.76 ERA this season with a 1.55 WHIP. What am I missing here?
I don't know.
We're gonna I know we're going off talking about other people here, but we kind of have to. Right now, Stowers, well, he's 0 for 4 for the Marlins so far. But in Baltimore, he was hitting .306 with a homer this season. Now, that's only 19 games. In AAA, he had 18 home runs already this year. In AAA. He is 26 years old, so maybe not. Did you hear that, Thunder?
I think I heard that one.
I can feel like I can hear it coming through my headphones. Anyway, I just think that it's I just think that it was wild, right? And the fact that we got De La Cruz for, I mean, basically nothing. I mean, Garrett Forster, we're going to miss that power. He had, I think he had 1 home runs this year. Come on, man. It's got to be something there. I thought it was value-wise. I thought it was a really good trade. He's tied for the team lead in home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a bat that goes right. He's going to strike out a little bit. You know what I mean? I understand that. We didn't really need more strikeouts, really. But, hopefully some other guys can limit the strikeouts. Hopefully he can. 2 hits in his first game with the Pirates. I think this has the potential to be a big impact. The reason that I was going to say Isaiah Kiner-Falefa coming from the Blue Jays might have been like a really sneaky big move for this team is, well, he's having a really good year. He's as good as he is on defense. Brian De La Cruz is not good, although he does have a great arm, which in Pittsburgh, I think in right field there, I think the great arm plays really well because there's so many balls that just should be doubles off the Clemente wall that we've seen even guys like Connor Joe kind of cut them off at second base and make some really good plays and throw some guys out just trying to get a double off a ball off the wall that they should get. So I think having a really good arm out there in right field at PNC Park is really important. Yeah. And right field should have a great arm anyway, and he has all of that great arm. Like it's a very good arm. We've already had some, Olivares was adventurous in right field. I mean, we had Polanco out there forever who was adventurous in right field. So, I mean, we're not really doing much different in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But he can add some pop and some power to the offense, and he does still have a great arm out there. So I think it's a very good add. But Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is a very good defensive player who can play all 3 infield positions, really better at third and second, but certainly capable at short. He also can play some outfield. So you start getting into maybe, the Sean Rodriguez, Josh Harrison world of things where like having a guy like that, and you do have him again next year. He's not a rental player.
Yeah.
And so like, and the other thing is we gave up a prospect who was playing really well. And so this was like a little bit of a bigger trade in that sense of things. I think with Nick Gonzalez going down and not knowing how long he's going to be out, that was a huge bat to lose. And Kiner-Falefa is an above average hitter this season. He's hit 292, but like the OPS plus was, I think, 115. I have the players' pages. open. So
I just wonder when he's going to be back from his injury.
Well, he was already rehabbing, so I think they're going to be there Friday. So like they expect him to be there Friday. He's ready to go. And the quote was, "I was planning on coming off the injured list and winning a batting title. Now I'm coming off the injured list and trying to win a World Series." Gotta like that. Gotta like that.
Yeah. And he's got some Pittsburgh blood, right?
What is it, like second cousin twice removed or whatever from Ralph Kiner? Your name's Kiner. You know, I heard who was it was saying, it might have been one of the North Shore 9 guys. I think it was DiNardo saying he's going to look up and see his name. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be something cool to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something cool. Also, he's just a good player. He's a veteran. He's been around. I think he's still 29 years old, Jake.
Yeah. And that's the part that shocked me, because when I first saw kiner-falefa, I'm like, are you serious? This dude stinks and he's old. I'm like, he's like 35 or 36 years old. And I'm like, what are we doing? And then you're like, he's 29. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. 29.
So then I looked up and he's having a good year. I had to have been getting him confused with somebody else, but I don't know how you could get him confused with somebody else. I just feel like he's been around for a long time.
He's been around for a long time. He's been around. I mean, he broke into the league in 2018 with Texas. So, I mean, he's just been around.
Yeah.
Ron Heichel in the chat says, from what I'm hearing, Sherrington couldn't do anything until Perez was final. Otherwise, no funds. This was talked about earlier today on the fan forum. Gary talked about how strapped Sherrington was at this point. Said some things. I encourage you to go listen to that if you guys haven't yet, because there were some pieces to that. I wasn't given the information, right? I heard it on that show with the same time as some of you did. So, but it is worth saying, you know what I mean? It was a budget conversation talking about how the Pirates base their budget on what they made last year, not on how they're doing. They don't project forward. Go listen to that and hear it from him, not from me, because that's, you know, it might change the way that you look at some of these things. I think that some of these moves, he also said they were never in on Chisholm, that they were never in on Jazz, and that's going to come out, and that's fine. OG says it's like how Rougned Odor is only 30 years old. It's kind of similar, right? Because they were, I mean, weren't they like around on that same team? But also, I'll say, which Rougned Odor? I'm pretty sure both of his brothers have the same name as him, and it's his dad's name and his uncle's name too. They're all Rougned Odor. Look it up, dude. It's hilarious. There's like 5 of them. Not that they've all made it to the majors, but like their whole family is named Rougned Odor. They're like, one of these guys is going to make it.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, there's a lot there. As far as those 2 trades, I think they do make this roster better.
Yeah.
You take a flyer on a couple left-handed pitchers. There's depth there. Baraki does not sound like he's coming back. So I think that you go after some of these guys. Josh Walker, who we got from the Mets, is a guy that the Pirates really like extension. That's his big thing. He's got a lead extension. So you see what they've done with Bailey Falter. So I'll give you a pass on Josh Walker and say, let's see what you do with it. But some of this, you know, getting Billy Cook and getting Nick York, these are guys that are maybe a little bit older. Billy Cook was 25 or is 25, still 25. He's still with us. And I think Nick York is 22 and will need added to the 40-man roster this offseason. But already saw a fantastic diving play from him. And seems like a guy that could give you a little bit more depth, a position that we've been kind of frustrated with a lot of options and not a lot of production.
Yeah.
And so maybe a potential replacement there for your Alika Williams or your G1 Bay, Diego Castillo. I mean, let's go back. Rodolfo Castro, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's talk about that whole group of guys that we've all said. Any one of these guys. You know what I mean? And Nick Gonzalez right now seems to be trending in the right direction, right? He's been a clutch hitter. He's been driving in runs. It's been hot streaks and, some average play at the plate, but like still seems to have a knack for driving those runs in. I really like Nick Gonzalez in that way. But you have some depth pieces on some guys that maybe you can move on and make some things look a little bit different. How about any guys that we missed out on, Jake? Was this enough? Let me ask you this. Did this actually make, I said that made the team roster. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the team, did I just say the team roster? The team better.
Yeah, I was confused.
The team better, the roster better. Thank you.
That's why I hesitated.
Yep. I got you. This team going forward, did this do what they needed to do? Two things. Did it address the issues, and was it enough?
I think it addressed the issues, and my only problem with the moves, and this will sound as it may, is some of the stuff that's been said about the wallet stuff. Other than that, set aside, I think it was enough to get the team in general saying, all right, we are trying to make a push. It's just tough when you get them limits. You know what I mean? Like teams like, great, sure, we can make a push if it fits in the budget. Like I could see them saying that, but still to be able to bring in a bat like Taylor Cruz and then potentially a bench piece as strong as Kiner-Falefa, you're making the team stronger. Up and down the lineup, it gets stronger.
Yeah. And offense has been the problem. I mean, you look at this team and you look at what we thought before the season, and I said as much before the season of what I thought was that this offense was going to be better and that the pitching was going to really struggle. And I was so wrong. And I think that this team in general, when I looked forward to this season, I looked forward to having big seasons and hey, we all raise our hand. We all say, boy, I got that one wrong. You know what I'm saying? We all had something we've gotten wrong and gotten right. And you were super high on Key Brian Hayes' offensive production this year, and it has been non-existent. I was super high on what Jack Sawinski could possibly do in the home run department. I understood that the average might still be low and the strikeouts might still be high. Kind of wish the strikeouts were higher if it meant he was going to hit for more power. But I expected 25 to 30 home runs. Obviously, 30 means everything clicked, but he had 26 last year. It's not stupid to think he can hit 25. And if he doesn't go through a terrible streak that he did last year, it's possible to believe that guy could have come out here and had a 30 homer season. And so when you say Hayes is going to be better, Sawinski is going to be better, you're going to get the same kind of thing from Brian Reynolds. You're going to get Oneil Cruz back, and we even said it might be a slow start coming out. He essentially missed the whole year. And so we looked at that and we said, if Rowdy Tellez can actually happen, even though that took longer than what we thought, I'm pretty sure we gave up on him and then he happened. But when you started looking at what this offense could have been, it felt like it had the makings of being like a decent roster, hitting more home runs, doing those things. This team, who is now 54 and 52, is that the record? Are we there? 55 and 53? How far behind am I when I say this? It's so terrible. I should know. 55 and 53. At 55 and 53 has been a lot worse than I thought they would be. And then you look at the pitching and you're like, oh, that's why. That's why they're 55 and 53.
Makes a little sense now.
And so pitching has far exceeded what I thought it would be. Couldn't imagine the run that Jared Jones went on. Couldn't imagine the run that Bailey Falter has been on. Certainly Bailey Falter has been on. And then, I think we could have imagined the run that Paul Skeens was on. I think we all were kind of hoping that we'd see that. But I think Jared Jones was better than what we thought for that run that he was on.
I mean, and Luis Ortiz for that matter.
And then Luis Ortiz resurfacing and being what he's been. And then even, Martin Perez for a minute gave us a good run there for a minute. And so couldn't have imagined. Thought the bullpen would be better, but it's come around and it's been pretty good as well. For the as a whole, right? As a whole, they've all had their struggles. But you're sitting a couple games over 500 to start August. And I'm going to say this as a positive. The two guys holding, let me double check here. The two guys holding wild card spots right now, other than the Braves, they're not tied. Because the Padres had an extra game and just won. So they're a half game above the Diamondbacks. Guess what? You're hosting those two teams in the next 6 games. That's exactly what you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you're facing those guys, and we've got 4 games against the Cardinals still, who are a game ahead of us. And you're chasing the Mets are going to Met. Oh, assuming the Mets are going to Met. You're looking at a team who has a legit shot to make it to the postseason. Once you get there, anything can happen. If you get Jones back and he's strong and you're running into the playoffs with those 3 guys, you have a chance. And they did what they did to make a little bit of a push and really didn't sacrifice much of the future in the process.
Yeah. I think on the McAdoo front, my first reaction was man, we had to give up McAdoo for that. And I understand you got to give to get, right? But then thinking about it, McAdoo really didn't have a spot. It's not he was going to be blocked for a minute.
Well, he's a little ways. I mean, maybe a little ways off too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
he's ideally, the way he was hitting the ball, he was going to get moved to AAA at the end of this year. So you're looking at maybe possibly late next year if he continued to get better.
Yeah,
but there's just no spot.
No. Yeah, and
really
he's
don't
listed
mind
as a
that.
second baseman right now. I know he's playing some third too, so you have that, but you've got Key locked up, and obviously everybody's got their opinion on him. But if he gets this back figured out, and we've seen it. Here's the thing about Key Brian Hayes, we've seen it before. There's a chance he goes on one of those stretches at the end of the year here and plays a pivotal role in this offense as well, despite not being good the rest of the year. There's just a chance, you know what I mean? But now with McAdoo gone, bringing in Nick York was a big move because I think that's a guy who's even closer. And so that's something there. Ron Heichel's in here saying Nick York is MLB ready. And I watched some footage of him and he looks pretty good and is hitterish. I'm there. You know what I'm saying? He's already more advanced than McAdoo. But the fact that where McAdoo is, you can get that back. I mean, Termar's still in the system, right? So if you're looking at, maybe, he's listed as second base. I know that McAdoo is also playing some outfield too and whatever. So there's some of that too. Mutu's in here, says the Cardinals lose and says hi. How you doing? I just really think overall, I thought they did a good job. I don't think it was any kind of I'm not really excited about it. It wasn't that move that kind of makes you sit back and say, dude, this is happening. It wasn't that. Right. But it was solid pickups who aren't just for this year. I think I would have been more excited about a Jesse Winker pickup who would have only been this year. But I would have been a little more excited about a Jesse Winker pickup. I thought that would have been, that would have been more exciting to me, even though it wouldn't have lasted longer than now.
Sure.
I just think
that left-handed bat that you're really wanting.
I was wanting the left-handed bat, although we didn't have right-handed power. So I do see how this does help. I just thought that, if you could get Connor Joe to come around, the left-handed bat might have helped a little more. But either way, I like Brian De La Cruz. I think this is a good move. You're just not like you've got an opportunity. A guy who doesn't walk a lot, like maybe something gets unlocked. There's some guys who like maybe Andy Haynes actually works for this guy. Yeah. Maybe it changes just what he needed it to change. I don't know. But Ghost Guy brings up he wanted Lane Thomas. That's fair. I don't really like Lane Thomas, but he would have been every bit a fit for what the Pirates needed this year. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a fair take. You know what I mean? Everybody's got a guy they like, and Brian De La Cruz was a guy I was like, okay, maybe for like a secondary option, but I would have preferred a cheaper. Like I would have said, like if you would have gave up Shim and Forrester for Winker, I'd have been like, yeah, fine with that. So like the fact that you got that, essentially like you still got a good player for not giving up a whole lot. Prospects are good. You want prospects to do well, but sometimes that means you want them to do well so you can ship them out. I've told you before, I don't envision Termarr Johnson playing for the Pirates. Like it's just a thing in my head, and maybe he will, and maybe it'll be great. But also maybe they use him even in the offseason as part of a package to win next year. Right. And that's kind of how I've envisioned it, is that either next year or the year after, they make a move that he's involved in, and it's a big move. And so maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, overall, I think it's pretty good. What do we got?
So I do believe the A's pulled him off the
They
block.
did. The A's pulled him out. He wasn't available.
So even if we wanted to go after him, we couldn't have.
And there were some guys that were just, the price was way too high. What they did within a certain amount of, we don't want to jump ship on what we feel like we've built. And whether you and I or anybody listening to this believes in what they've built, that doesn't matter. The front office that's doing this believes in what they're doing. And so I don't have a problem with them saying, we want to see this through a little bit. We're not even out of the rebuild. This is the last year of the rebuild. Let us come out of this and see if what we've built is working. And so I think what they've done is they've added to this without sacrificing what they've been building. Like I said, whether you agree with it or not, this is the end of the rebuild this season. And you might get into the postseason this way. We're literally reliving what Baltimore did 2 years ago. We're reliving that. What they finished? Baltimore finished. It was 2022, and they finished what? 84 wins, 83 wins. They finished 83 and 79 in 2022, the fifth year of their rebuild, in what is supposed to be a sustainable. And now look.
So 2020, they lost like 118 games?
Well, 2020, we only played 60.
Yeah. Maybe it was 21.
2021, they lost 110 games.
Yeah.
2022, they were 25 and 35 in a 60-game season. So there's like a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying? Like, or 2020, I meant. 2020 or 2019 was 108 losses. 2019 was 115. 4 straight seasons of essentially losing 100 games. What is, they would have lost 95 games if the 2020 season would have ended with the same winning percentage, right? But that was only after 16 games. So right around, 95 to 100 losses in 2020 as well. And then they went 83 and 79 and just missed the postseason. The very next year, they won 101 games. Now, I'm not projecting that the Pirates win 101 games, but they also did that with like not a real good starting rotation. The Pirates have built this in a little different way. They went starting pitching heavy instead of hitter heavy. And the Orioles did it hitter heavy. But either way, it's yeah, and I think Ghost Guy might be talking about the Pirates. They definitely we're on pace to lose about 120 games. Once again, I still think like the 60-game season, I think it's exaggerated in ways. There were some teams that were good that I think if you played 100 more games, they would have been out of it. You know what I mean? I just think there were teams where I was like, really? You're going to make the postseason? You're terrible. And there were also teams that were really bad that I thought, they're not that bad. Pirates were that bad, but maybe not 120 loss bad. You know what I'm saying? Like they were bad though. So I'm not like trying to act like
they would have turned it around a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So either way, I think, when you look at it, you got better. I think that other teams got better too. And so I think that's going to be the piece that's really going to tell. It's not just you brought in Brian De La Cruz and kiner-falefa and you added, a couple potential pieces to the bullpen. It is along with that, you have to be better.
Yeah.
Ke'Bryan Hayes has to work. He has to be better at the plate. Mm-hmm. I don't think he had an extra base hit in July. Right? And you had a team with Sawinski there who was struggling. He had his struggles all season, really. Not just, all season had his struggles. And you've put him in a position where he can go down and work on that. He doesn't have to continue struggling at this place. I still think he's set up to still be a part of this.
Yeah.
Ke'Bryan Hayes is where he's at with the potential of working out. Rowdy Tellez has just happened, right? And he's become a part. And Rowdy Tellez is a big piece of what I'm about to say here. And really, even most recently, you can talk about, I'm looking for my tab here, but you can talk about Mike Taylor recently coming into his own, making a big impact in the Astros series, but not just that. He's been hitting better in the games, lately. Adding a little bit of that power back in. Oneil Cruz has been starting to hit more often and oftentimes against lefties. He's been very clutch in certain moments, but you're looking at a team who went into April or came out of April at 10-17. All those guys were bad. Even Reynolds wasn't great. He didn't start figuring stuff out till May. And in May, you went 12-14. You were kind of getting closer, but you still weren't there. We were done with Rowdy. Get him out of here, right? A lot of people were done with Sawinski. They were done with a lot of these guys. We can't do anything. Second base is still a problem. Triolo's not getting it done. Here comes Nick Gonzalez. Here comes Nick Gonzalez. He's starting to figure things out. All of a sudden, you flip into June, and you're 14-12. The June resurgence of Reynolds and Rowdy were huge for this team.
Yeah.
Huge for this team. And then you go into July and you start having a couple more guys start to figure some things out. Rowdy and Reynolds continue to do what they're doing. Nick Gonzalez still getting clutch hits. He's in the lineup every day. He's making a difference. And July, this team was 15-10. If you keep having good years from these guys, or good, months from these guys, Rowdy, if he's there, Reynolds is there, Cruz is starting to hit in some different situations that's really impactful. He's starting to put together a season. They're all getting close to that 20 homer mark. You bring in De La Cruz, he can hit some home runs. You bring in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to fill the hole of what Nick Gonzalez was doing with this lineup. Joey Bart has been impactful for this team from the catcher position that looked non-existent. And he wasn't really clicking until now. I'm like, yeah, he should be playing.
Yeah.
We're not even thinking about Henry Davis right now. So a couple other additions to this team. Luis Ortiz has been big in July. Okay, so now this team is looking forward, saying like, hey, we've gotten better literally every month of this season. Last year didn't happen like that. It was good, and then it was bad, and then it was better, but still not good, and then it was worse. And then, and then the last 2 months of the season was like, okay, August was okay, and September, that that was all right. You know what I mean? We've done that.
Yeah.
We've been there. This team continues to get better every single month. OG says, Cruz is hitting lefties now. Mike Taylor has been league average bat the last 6 weeks. Hey, if Mike Taylor's a league average bat, he's a good player.
Yeah.
Just like if Oneil Cruz can be a league average defender, he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you're going to get from him. League average, maybe a little less. But he's going to be a little more than that on the offensive side. Yeah, we got to wrap this thing up, Jake. This has been it, right? This is the trade deadline. This is the push. It's now August. You've got 2 months of games left. And I'm telling you right now, like, they may not make the postseason. Now, I know that wasn't what you thought I was going to say, but they may not. But this is going to be fun. Don't let a bad game by Oneil Cruz or a series they might lose in the middle of August. Like, there's still 2 months to play.
Yeah.
55 and 53. So we're just over the number of games that, like, you're 108 games. So you're just over the where you could say, like, they still have the 2020 season left. So it's a little less than that. Right.
Yeah.
But like I just talked about how, like, in the 2020 season, there's so many things happened that was like, yeah, but that, you know, you erased 102 games. So, like, we're almost to the point where we can still have, like, that season. Now, I mean, I'm not saying the Pirates season, but, like, there were some teams that just, you get hot enough to do something, right?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like, you still have over 50 games left. So you take a loss in Houston after winning a series, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay. You got a bunch of opportunities left. Now, it doesn't make that game less important than a game in late September, right? It doesn't. They all count. But I think that's the idea of it, is you have an opportunity to come back from that. Go steal some games that you shouldn't have won, which they've already done this year. I mean, you might even say they did that the first 2 games of the Houston series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they got one stolen from them, or was given away, right? We've also had that happen too. So I don't know, man. I think this is going to be fun. It's going to
be a wild ride.
I think this is going to be fun. And see you, Ghost Guy. If you didn't already get off, he said he's heading off for the night. We got a lot of guys who like to get down in the dumps when they start to struggle. When they blow a game, we get down in the dumps hard. There's 162 of these, man. You're going to have bad games. You're going to have bad series. And you know what? If this team finishes like Baltimore did at 83 and 79, that's a pretty good season in the context of what they're trying to build. And it builds good for moving forward. And if the Pirates base their payrolls and whatever off of the previous year, well, they've sold some tickets this year too.
Yeah.
So if they make a little bit of money this year, maybe they'll spend a little bit of money in the offseason. Get out to the park. You know what I mean? Like, watch these games. This is fun. A game that makes you nervous, even if it doesn't go your way, is fun. Ron Heichel, man, this guy was ready to give up. He kept putting it in the comments. I'm done with this team. I'm out of here. And here's his comment that Jake just took away. There we go. They're now in the race for real after the deadline additions. And it's really all we can ask for this year. 100%. If they fall short, bummer. But if they fight the whole way, this is a fun team to watch. And I believe that they have the potential and that they have the ability. They're right there. They can still get in this thing. And you never know. You never know what happens.
Right.
So, I don't know. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'm excited for the last 2 months.
Good things.
Good things. Good things. I'm excited for the last 2 months of this.
Yeah, me too.
There was a quote that I thought about getting before this episode. Like there was a specific quote. And I was just thinking earlier and I was like, oh, I should get that before we start. I forget what it was. And I was like, that'd be good. That'd be good. But totally forgot what it was. Maybe I'll find it and get it for another one. Cause it was one that I felt like we could have around for a while. So anyway, super excited just to watch meaningful baseball, to be a little bit stressed out for a couple of hours. All knowing like, dude, just let it go afterwards if they lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let it excite you if they win, but ultimately get over it. Just like the Oneil Cruz stuff, get over it, move on. You know what you do when you make 5 errors in a series that you won? You go hit 2 home runs in the next one. So I'm calling 2 home runs this weekend in a big time series from Oneil Cruz. He hit 2 home runs against them at their park. He's going to hit 2 home runs against them at home this weekend. That's my call. You got Luis Ortiz, you got Mitch Keller, you got Paul Skeens going this weekend. Let's party, right? I mean, let's go take a series here.
Yeah. I mean, we have our 3 lined up right now to go get a sweep.
Who do they got? Brandon Pfaadt. That's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
And really good when he gets hot.
Yeah.
And that's Pfaadt versus Ortiz. Okay. Oneil Cruz, put one in the river off him. That'll make a difference. And then you got Montgomery versus Keller. Okay. What do we got from Jordan Montgomery? One of the most talked about free agents this offseason.
Struggling.
7-5 with a 651. Doesn't mean that when it comes down to meaningful baseball, you can't rely on this guy. Tough matchup, but we got Mitch Keller going. And then after that, it's feel bad. Sorry, nobody's listening. Ryan Nelson. Don't know you, right? Could have been any name, combination of a first and last name that you hit random on MLB The Show. That's what that would have sounded like to me. He probably pitched against us this year. No recollection of it. Ryan Nelson, 4.53 ERA this season, 79 Ks. So he's at least doing that. Up against Paul. Who cares? We got Paul Skeens going. We're going to win that game. That's all there is to. Mike Taylor's going to hit another home. Mike Taylor hits a home run in the Paul Skeens game. I'll call him Michael again. How's that sound?
It's the only time he hits home runs.
Well, he did hit one without now.
True.
He had that other game. His first 3 homers of the season. By the way, I think Michael 412 actually asked about this too. Grandal's not in the same order, but Grandal has 4 home runs and 3 of them when Skeens pitched too.
It's most of the time when he plays.
Well, yeah, but he does see. I mean, he's saying he's gotten another home run. But it's funny that we got 2 guys who 4 home runs and 3 of them in Skeens games.
Yeah.
But he hits a home run in Skeens game on Sunday. He's got Michael back. He drives in 3 runs in the series. I'll go back to Michael. He's earned it. 3 runs during the whole series or a homer on Sunday. And it's in. I'm catching a little bit of flack for still calling him Mike, by the way, just to let you know. That's why I'm bringing this up. I'm catching a little bit. There it is. We got some fire emojis from another Michael who goes by Michael. So he probably wants it to happen. I don't know what we're doing here, but Jake, you got a comment on Ron Heichel saying, how did Jake get the baby face and you look my age? I'm not sure what we're talking about here.
I don't know what's happening.
Ron, you're going to have to clear this one up. I'm not sure what you're saying here. Either way, I'm into these next 2 months. Let's go. Okay, so OG does ask, before we get out of here, I'm going to play music so we do get out of here. I love this, but I am going to play some music here. What does he have to do to get the A back in there? Well, we have to get the Michael first. Then we'll set the things. I don't like the A in general. I don't think there's a reason to really even put it in there. So I'm a little confused on that one. However, he helps this team get to the postseason, man, I'll call him Joe if he wants me to. I'll call him to be on the podcast. I don't know.
I'm gonna start calling him Matt.
I don't know what's going on here. Well, Jake is the younger brother, so
yeah.
Jake is the younger brother. All right, guys, let's go Bucs.
Let's go Bucs.
Appreciate y'all. Make sure to hit the like button at the bottom of this thing and subscribe on the YouTubes. See ya.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucs.